My name is Jesse. I'm originally from Finland, and because of life happens, I ended up in Malta and I'm teaching maritime, more specifically navigation, electronic and terrestrial. I got interested in the maritime field because I always admired ships. As mentioned, I come from Finland. In the Baltic Sea region, we have a very strong culture of passenger ships. Your school holidays, Christmases, whatever, you very commonly spend on board ships, which are like floating resorts with spas and karaoke bars, playrooms, restaurants and so on. So I got into the culture. For me it was natural that the ships are there, and I traveled on board those ships a lot with my family, especially with my grandparents. And somehow I started admiring these ships. Engineering wise, it's impressive. Basically these are like tower buildings, but they just float through channels and canals and restricted waters. It looks impressive. And eventually I sort of started paying attention to the crew, to the people who work on board these ships. And I started admiring them as well, without understanding necessarily what they do. I couldn't point out who is the karaoke host of the ship, who is the security guard, who is the nanny, but somehow I was fascinated by them. And yeah, that's how it all got started. Not sure if that's the healthiest motivation to join the industry, but it worked for me. In training, I didn't actually get into training. I don't do training, I do education, maritime education. If you don't know the difference between training and education, I encourage you to attend one of my lessons and you'll figure out. My first job was actually through college. In Finland, you enroll to college when you're around 16, if you wish to be to college educated, which I did. And in the maritime college, the first year, we just did the safety courses, like even today we do here. The law has never changed, so we have to do the same stuff. It's a global thing. And after your safety courses, they send you on board a commercial ship to be an apprentice. And this, my first ship, they decided to employ me. So yeah, I think I was 16, so I didn't even have the concept of applying for work or anything like this. But since I was already there, I think someone got sick or something similar. And then my head of department, being the chief officer, asked if I want to replace this sick person, or maybe it was paternity leave, whatever. And that's how I got on board, without even knowing how to write a CV or anything. Of course, now I'm a little bit better when it comes to that, but yeah, heavily influenced and assisted by my college. That's how I got on. My role, 20 years I was actively on board, for now, because you never know. Maybe one day I'll be back on board, but as mentioned, I started at the age of 16, and I started teaching here in Malta at the age of 36, so exactly 20 years I was on board. What's exceptional here in Malta and Mediterranean region is that I worked almost 10 years as a deckhand, whereas with the local system here, you start as a cadet and then you become a junior officer and so on. But for us it was a bit different. So almost nine years I was a deckhand, then quite a few years I worked as a second officer, chief officer only briefly, until I became a captain, which is what I did roughly 2.5 years until I joined the school. So that's my 20 years on board, more or less. Most I liked, and I still like the most, that I don't feel like I'm working. It's a stereotype, it sounds lame, but I actually do something that's my passion. So I just get paid for doing something that I would do regardless anyway. So I know it sounds lame, but I'm privileged in that manner. So this was my dream job, even when I was a kid, and this dream came true, and I'm still living the dream. Okay, that was way too lame. There are some good experiences, some adventures, and I invite everyone to gain these same experiences, but something you have to to yourself.